Well, hello there again, friends. Today is 4/18/2022, and today is the Odin Project Vlog Day 94. And boy, oh boy, was this a Alice rabbit hole for sure. We'll just get right into it. So, no, we're on number 4. I'm on number 4 today. It's Add a New Book button that brings up a form allowing users to input the details of the new book, author, title, number of pages, whether it's been read, and anything else you want. That sounds super simple, doesn't it? It is a rabbit hole. So I spent most of yesterday and then parts of this afternoon, this evening, finishing up this. I got it, but there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye, and I'll do my best to explain it, kind of in the similar format we've been doing. So without further ado, let's hit the text editor. So I'm going to explain the index HTML here, and then we'll go into just a cursory overview of what I've got going on here, and then we'll go into the JavaScript, and then we'll finish it out with styling and CSS stuff in the browser. It's kind of how we'll do it, like we've been doing. It seems to work well that way. So, so today is all about the form. Adding in that form so that users can finally input, and we're making our app, or bringing it full circle, making it a little more lively, giving the users a form they can play with and input data, and that's what this is here. So if you remember from last time, we had our class form, so this has been built out a little bit, not too much, just the necessities, because we are going to do some DOM manipulation on this, but we have the form class, and then inside of that I have a button class that says has a class of add book button, and that's add new book, and that will show up at the top of the page, and you'll see this in action in a bit. But the add new button is hard coded in, or add a new book, excuse me, that they click on, and then that brings up the form that is hidden as per the instructions. Well, I hid it. I found a cool little unique way I'll show you in a bit in JavaScript that I learned from Googling. Lots of Googling in this section. Lots of it. A lot of rabbit holes, a lot of Googling. I'm happy to say that I got through it, but not without a little bit of work. But what would be the fun in that without work, right? So we have another div inside here called add book form, and the key is the style. So the style is display none, meaning everything inside of this div here is going to be hidden. Display, if you do style equals quote display colon none end quote, that will hide it. I did that little kung fu there by Googling. And then we're going to use DOM manipulation to turn that on by giving display empty quotes, and you'll see that here in a bit. But anyway, the form is inside of that. So we have a form called ID called add book, and we'll reference the ID throughout the JavaScript. And I didn't use class because there's a little quirkiness with the DOM manipulation that, if I remember, I'll touch on in a little bit. So I used ID. And then we have label and input for title, text, author, pages, and read. So basically it's just like we've been through before. So we have a title label, and then we have input. All these are text inputs. So there's title, there's author, there's pages, and there's read. And then there's just labels on top of it that match up. The 4 matches the ID. And then outside of the add book form, we have another button down here, 2 buttons actually. One is a submit button that says submit to library, and the other is reset, which resets the form. They do not appear until after you click the add new book button, and that's by design, because the text said, the requirements said that we want to pop that up. The requirements did not say to have these extra buttons, but this is part of the Alice rabbit hole that I went down. and I'll describe that as we go along, and it'll make more sense when you can see it. So I'm going to try to keep moving here. So this video is probably going to be longer today, but I'm going to try to keep moving. So that's the HTML, and then the div close down here for the form, and that'll carry out the HTML. So going into the JavaScript, there's been a lot of refactoring here, so I didn't rewatch my own video last time, so I don't remember exactly where we left off. I think we added book to library. We described a push. I think we're going to start here, is where I kind of amended some things. So the first thing, I'm going to take it in the order of operation of how do I want to handle this? I'm going to take it from when the user inputs information. So you can see that I commented all this out because we no longer need this now. We have a little more intuitive web app running here. Excuse me. So what we have here is we start basically right about here. So we have a const being declared of add book button, and that takes the contents of document.querySelector add book button, and so that selects the add book button, which is what we declared right here explicitly, add book button. So what that does then, we have add book button. We're going to add an event listener to it to click, and when it clicks, we're going to run the display form function, which is right below. And the function display form does this. It runs the document.getElementById add book form, because add book form is the ID of the form, as you see here. Not there, right here, the ID of the form. And this is the kung fu I was talking about. So what it's doing is it's going to target the .style.display, and we're gonna manipulate it to be an empty string. And what that does is it changes this from none to empty string, which basically nullifies the style, and then it will display the form after the click of the button, and you'll see that in action. So that's how. There is probably 4 or 5 different ways to do that, but I found that was the easiest, cleanest, simplest way to do it. There's obviously different ways to get a form to come up, but that worked for me. Again, my way on all this isn't necessarily the best way or the right way. It's just the way I did it. So we come down here, we're going to start event listener and add input to array for new entry form. So we're going to create a constant called submit button, and it's going to take on document.querySelector submit button. So we are targeting the submit button that is hard-coded right here. So once the form comes up, we're now targeting this right here, the submit to library button. And we are going to add an event listener to it, and we're going to listen for the click, and then on click we're going to run the intake data form data, excuse me, and that comes down to right here. So we're going to transform the data to variables for intake. So we're going to basically just going to declare title, author, page, and read, and they're going to take on the targets of document.getElementById title, author, pages, read, .value. So value, if you don't know, I googled it, I didn't know it. .value will pull the contents of the text box. You'll see in a moment the entire form is just 4 text boxes for free-flowing text for title, author, pages, and read, and it will go into these variables. And this is how I did it. And I did it by ID because, for one, these are IDs. But also, as you know, in most things in the course and in my recordings, most of my projects are done with class. I try to default to class, but there's a problem with class. When you try to manipulate class, you can, there is something called get elements by class name, but it doesn't target an individual class name like you would think. It targets an array-like list of nodes of all things that are, say, example, title. So if you have a class called title and there's 10 of them, it will put it in like a node list. It's kind of like an array. It kind of looks like an array, but it's not an array. And you can't target specific ones off of that. And then you have to loop through it. And I do have a section of code here that does do just that. And so I'll show you that. I just want to tell you that because I learned something new. I learned that new about DOM manipulation. I didn't, because I could never in my life of me get class to work, class name to work when I'm trying to retrieve it for DOM manipulation. I never knew why, and then I started doing a Alice deep dive on it, and I found out that's why. So that's the brief short version of that. And then we're gonna have I have a cool little if check here. So this is gonna break out if form is incomplete or not valid. So basically, if the title or author or pages or read are blank, meaning nobody entered meaning the user did not enter any information in, either intentionally or unintentionally, and they hit that submit button, this will break it out. So this will break them out of the intake form data function and return it back to the up here to the to the top for waiting for another click. And so it does that by design because I don't want invalid information coming in. I want all fields to be filled out. So I added in basically this try catch essentially is what it is, but it's not. Kind of functions the same way. And the next thing I have is I have call function to input the book data to array. So I have add book to library. So this is going to call the add book to library, and it's going to pass in the title, author, pages, and read that we collected up here in the form. And so it's going to do that. So we're going to go to that next. But before I do that, while I'm down here, I want to hit this because I'll miss it otherwise. So, and then right after that, we're going to reset the form after successful submission. And that's done by using document.getElementById addBook.reset. So the reset is a method, I think. Anyway, what it does is it just resets the document, or the form to since it's add book is our entire form here. So it's just going to reset the form to the way it was originally default, which is blank everything. And that's just to ensure that we don't have any straggling information that gets pushed along into an array accidentally or introducing a bug. It just kind of zeroes everything out. So here, going back up here, we're going to call add book to library. So we go up here. Excuse me. Add book to library. So here we are. We're going to run this function with title, author, page, and read. So this is exactly what we went through before in the last video, so I won't rehash over this. But the thing I did add is that once it does all that and it pushes book into the library array at the end of it, it's then going to after it pushes the end of the array, then it's going to display books on page. It's calling that next function, which is right here. So then it comes down here. And this is the function display library array to cards, and it starts with a constant books equals it's going to take on document.querySelector.books. So we have this is yeah, did I already went over this? Yeah, we already went over this. So I had to amend it a little bit. So this was from before. Sorry to repeat myself, so I'll stop there. But I did have to amend it. So when it would loop through, I was having a problem because before I didn't have this block right here, and it would just loop through the library. You see, here's the array loop. I didn't change anything here, so this is the same. But it would go through and it would loop every single time I click submit, and I didn't want that because what it was doing is, as you can see here, and we went over in the last video, it's recreating all of the divs and all the cards again. So basically the display on the screen, I should Should have took a screenshot, but I didn't. Basically, it was, you know, every time you hit submit, it would enter a new display, a new card. It would basically go through this, but it would reiterate the loop over and over and over, or the array. So when it would reiterate the array, it would also display out the array multiple times. So basically, you just kept getting the array plus one, array plus one, array plus one, if that makes sense. So basically, it was appending your new form entry into the end of the array, but it would then reprint the array over again because I'm looping through it here. So what I did was I thought about it and got stuck in a rabbit hole and then figured out how to do it, and here's how I did it. So I used this block of code I created, remove all previously displayed cards before I loop over array again. So I wanted to explain that to you guys so you guys know why this chunk of code here exists. So basically I want to loop over, I want to display, remove, basically have it erase or forget any previously displayed cards. I know it sounds counterintuitive and it probably isn't the best performance-wise for the JavaScript engine, runtime engine, but it gets the job done. So we have a constant remove divs here that takes on document query selector all cards. So what this does is it selects all the card class attributes that have been created so far, which would be what we've went over before, the class cards that are created in the loop. And then console.log, just for diagnostic purposes, this shows me the node count of current card divs and then remove divs. So it just shows me what it's selecting. And you'll see this in live in action here. And I have a for loop inside here. It says it's for let I equals 0. I is less than remove divs.length. So I want to iterate over the length of however many divs are in there. And then we're going to increment by 1 each time. And then we're going to, it is a nodes list. So it's not an array, but it acts as an array. So each card is a node, and so we're gonna treat it like an array, and we can do that by putting in remove divs, and then in brackets I for the increment dot remove. So the remove method will remove the. There's other ways to do this. I just found this way to be the cleanest. So then the remove method will remove the card from that nodes list, and it'll loop through until the all the remove divs, all the iterations have been gone through. Then when it's all zeroed out, then it goes right down and does the loop again. I know it's probably not the best performance way to do it, but then it goes through the loop and completes what we've already went over last video. And it just basically reprints the new divs, and it does that because now we have at this point in the code, we have the new array from the user, or the new information, new book from the user has been pushed to the array already. So my library array will have the latest and greatest, and so we just print that to the screen. And we have one more. I skipped this part down here. We have an event listener here for clear button form. So if I remember telling you earlier, there's a reset form here, and it's called the reset button. And so its code's right here. So we're going to set a clear button equal to a document query selector reset button, and it's listening. It's got an event listener. It's listening for click, and then we're going to run the clear form. Function clear form runs, and then it runs the document.getElementById add book, and it resets. So this is familiar because it's exactly the same thing as us resetting on successful submission, except here we're resetting if somebody clicks the clear form, which indicates that they want to start over. So this again does the same exact thing. It just resets and deletes anything that's in the text boxes. So it doesn't delete the array or anything like that, which is good because we need to have that intact. It just resets the form. And that's it. Probably clear as mud. I know I went through that pretty fast. So CSS I'll leave for the browser. So let's check out the browser here. So refresh the page here. So here's that add new book I talked about earlier, hard-coded in. So I click that, and then here pops up the display. Remember we went to display. We used DOM manipulation to do display from none to empty string. So it shows it, and you can see that here in the code. You have where's it at? Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 bum. Anyway, I don't want to go looking for that, waste time. Okay, so here we go. So so this there's no grid to this. I forgot to go over the grid stuff. We're already at 20 minutes, but basically this is just a hard-coded button, and then this stuff pops up, and this is a grid. So if I turn that on, you'll see the grid here in purple. So there is a grid here that creates the CSS. 0.1 FR, 1 FR in columns, gap is 10 pixels, margins 50, line items and center justified. We went over that before. Sorry guys, I'm probably going to have to speed this up just a little bit. Text align center inheritance, so that just aligns everything on the grid and on the block and inside of the parent grid item here that's on top of this. So that is simply that. And then here's your labels and all that. So this is nothing too fancy. There's just a basic inheritance, nothing fancy. So the reason why I put the buttons outside of the form is real quickly is because you can see I have a class reset button of class type reset. So normally you wouldn't have to do a click event. You could actually have this inside the form up here, and it would act and behave as a reset without having to put any code in it natively in HTML. You just click it. The problem is when I put it in there, this is the problem with doing afterthought on your CSS. So I had already built all this out and had this working, and then I added these two buttons, and they were not cooperating when I tried putting them inside the form, and that's why they live outside of the form. They're still inside the div, the add book form div, but they're outside of the form because they just weren't. I could not get them to behave, and I didn't want to go back and redo my grids and stuff. So that's why they exist outside. Hence why I have to have a event listener on reset. So that's the in case you caught that earlier. Maybe you didn't, but anyway, these submit buttons, they're just border radius 10 pixels shadowed, 5 pixel, 5 pixel, 5 pixels black to give it that cool 3D look, and the border radius of 10 pixels to make it smooth the edges out, and that's basically it. They're not inside a grid or anything like that. And that's basically how that goes. So let's run through the fun part. Let's run through adding a book. So let's just do test, 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 test. Submit to library. Okay, so we got show me the node count of the current divs, node list 0, and you can see the so that ran before we added it, so that was just counting what was currently there. So it noticed that there was no current cards there in the node list. So here's our input of our constructor, or the console log output of our constructor, and we now have a card. We have a card with our information in it. So let's add another one. Test 2. Whoops. Submit to library. So here it is again. Show me the node count for the current card divs. We have a node count of 2 or 1 now because we had an existing. So this is looking at this one. So it has an existing card div class in it, and then there's our object constructor being built, and there's our card. And just to speed this up, add another one, submit to library, there you go, add another one, submit to library, there you go. I just want to see it, so you know it wraps. Add another one, submit to library, and then it goes down here as per last video, so it's responsive. And if we look here, we can do my library to check the array. The array has 5 items in it, so we know that's not being altered anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can view them in the browser here if we want in DevTools. So we got test 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's good. It's good. It's staying there. And then here's how the reset works. Simply just reset the form. There it goes bye-bye. And here is an example of, say we entered in 3 of the 4 columns. Click. It doesn't do anything. So by design, it's hitting that that if statement that's canceling, that's breaking it out of that particular function, so it doesn't continue on, so we don't have erroneous data. And add new book after you press it once doesn't do anything because it's showing. So that's it. I don't think I missed anything. I knew this was going to go long. I know I went over a lot, and I went over it really fast, so feel free to watch it over again if need be. Thank you for coming along the journey with me today, and hope you enjoyed the ride and learned something along the way. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Oh, and don't forget to push your changes to GitHub after each section, especially this beefier project. This app's proving to be more work than than what it looks like. So make sure you pushing your changes up to commit them up to Git and GitHub so that they can so that in case you mess something up, you can roll back. So and also so that the community can see your progress. So again, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. I just broke 200 subscribers, and I couldn't be happier. That is a great milestone, and I'm very grateful for all of you who stick around and watch me babble on these videos. So I won't make this any longer. So with all that said, till next time, see ya.